Hi, I'm Mike Pender, the current president of the FICPA, and I'm here today to speak with Steve Knopik, CEO of Bells Inc., a nationwide retailer based in Bradenton, Florida. And we're going to speak about his career as a CPA in industry. Steve, tell me about your current role as CEO and about the journey you've taken in your career.
Mike, I started with KPMG many years ago. I was in the audit practice, and my specialty was basically financial institutions and retailers. I worked on the Publix account and on the Eckerd's account, and that type of retailing is quite different from the type of retailing that Bells and Bells Outlet does. But when Bob Bell began his search for a CEO for his company, my experience at KPMG qualified me for consideration. And once I was selected, my experience in auditing retailers prepared me for some of the issues that we faced at Bells in those days. And so I'm very thankful for all the years that I worked as an auditor at KPMG. Once I joined Bells, we were in a growth period, and there were a lot of challenges in the finance division. I was required to kind of professionalize the group. I was required to develop a budgeting system and get us into a real, kind of financial planning mode, more strategic finance kind of a position. And as the business grew, so did my responsibilities. Initially, I served as CFO, but then I took on responsibility for the IT function, for human resources, and for administration. And one of the hardest roles that I took on was when I assumed the leadership and management responsibility for the distribution center, in addition to the other functions. I didn't know much about managing operations like the distribution center, having that many people that you were responsible for. So that was a real challenge. But of course, probably the biggest milestone in my career was when I became CEO of the company about 5 or 6 years ago. And it's been a real challenge. I would say that over the course of my career, Mike, my expertise and my skills have moved from things that are more technical and detailed in nature to things that are more qualitative and less detailed in nature. And it's been a lot of fun.
Steve, what are some of the biggest challenges you currently face and expect to face in the future?
Well, retailing is a very difficult business, and of course most people would say that the business they work in is pretty difficult, but I think for us the biggest challenge is developing and executing strategies that are both compelling to our customers but at the same time superior to those of our competitors. You can't focus too much on the competition to the exclusion of the customers, and you can't focus solely on the customers and forget about the competition. So you've got to really keep your eye on both. I would say the last several years have been especially challenging given the impact on the consumer's side of the equation of the economic recession that we've been going through. And it's been especially challenging in Florida. I don't see a quick end to that challenge. Unemployment's particularly high. It's going to take a long time for the jobs picture to brighten. In addition, in Florida, where we get a significant portion of our volume, we've still got a significant overhang in the housing market because of the mortgage crisis and the foreclosures and so on. And it's going to take a while for that to resolve. So our biggest challenge is dealing with a consumer who is spooked about the economy, a little bit concerned about the future, and who, quite frankly, we rely upon to have some confidence so they'll spend money and come out and buy things in our store. And dealing with that consumer confidence issue has been a real challenge.
Steve, what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in your career so far?
I think that the key to producing exceptional results is holding people accountable. And holding people accountable requires great leadership. It requires clear communication about what the expectations are, and it requires clear communication about how people are performing. And sometimes it's difficult to do that, to take the time to communicate that you need, to be as clear as you want to be. And sometimes when people or groups of people or teams don't quite get the job done, you realize that it's not their failure, that it's your own. It's the fact that you weren't able to convey to them what it is your vision was or what it is that you expected. Because 9 times out of 10, if you can let people know clearly what it is you expect, 9 times out of 10 they're going to produce the results, especially if you're there to support them along the way. So I guess the most important lesson is that sometimes it's your own failure and not the failure of the people or the team that work for you that cause you not to be successful.
Steve, what do you feel has been your greatest professional accomplishment?
I'd like to give you 2. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. I think, to me, the most rewarding accomplishment of my career has been seeing people that I worked hard with and worked to develop achieve things, achieve promotions, produce successful results. There's nothing like seeing someone blossom and someone be recognized for their skills. And usually that results in that person producing even more than they ever thought they could. And it's great when you can feel like you've been a part of that. It's also, I think, very rewarding when you see some of the judgments and values that you've developed kind of become evident in other people, so that when you start a sentence, they can finish it. So I'd say, by and large, that's one of the things that I find most rewarding. If you ask me what my greatest professional accomplishment is, though, I'd have to say becoming the CEO of this company. Bell's is a company that's got a great reputation in the marketplace, largely in part because of the leadership of Bob Bell and his father, and the fact that those people and the other shareholders and the board of directors had the confidence in me and what I could do, and gave me this opportunity, this responsibility, clearly was something that I'll never forget.
Steve, what would you say to accounting students or young CPAs that are considering a career in industry?
There are several things, several lessons that I learned that I'd like to pass along. I guess the first one is try to get something out of every assignment. There is something to learn from everything you do. Even though the work may seem repetitive, even though you may be going out to visit a client this year that you visited last year, there's always something new to learn. So that would be the first thing. Get something out of every assignment. Look for something that you can learn from and grow with. The second is hustle, hustle, hustle. When I started out, we worked long hours, we worked long weeks, and we had to meet deadlines, we had to uphold certain standards, and that required a lot of work and a lot of effort. And the more time that you can devote, the more energy that you can devote to those early assignments, to hustling, allows you to kind of get ahead and achieve the next level. So hustle, hustle, hustle. Third, I would say, find a person who you really respect, someone whose profile you think is really exciting, someone whose professional career is something that you would aspire to, and try and emulate that person. And if you can, reach out to that person and seek their help, seek their mentorship, as you move through your career. I know that there were a number of people who I worked with at KPMG who made a big impression on me. Some people that I worked for on my initial audit assignments who butchered my work and gave me all kinds of review comments, and everything I wrote, ripped it up, and told me I could have said this better and that better. And those people had a huge impact on me and helped me to establish standards of performance that I think really aided my progression over the course of my career. And finally, and I think you'll hear this from a lot of people, never cut corners on values. Never cut corners on values. If you don't have your reputation, if you don't have a values-centered career, it's much more difficult to consistently progress and improve and grow. And you can't understate the importance of values in your profession and in your life.
Steve, how has belonging to the FICPA helped you in your career, and what would you say to CPAs and industry about the value of membership?
The FICPA is a great organization because it keeps you connected. It keeps you connected with a lot of different things. What's going on in the industry, what's going on in the profession, whether you're in audit or tax or whatever part of the business you're in, you can really stay connected, not only with what's going on in the industry and the profession, but also it keeps you connected with a great network of professionals and respected people that you can call upon for a number of things that you might encounter over the course of a busy day. So I think that connectivity has really kept me sharp over the years. I haven't always agreed with everything that's happened in the CPA profession with financial accounting standards, especially these days. And I think there's a lot of question about what does some of these new reporting standards and new accounting rules really mean, and how's it going to affect everything. And I wish I was back in the old days when things were simple. But, it's the future, and you've got to have a way to keep connected with what's going on and how it's going to affect your life and your career and your business. And the FICPA has been the real key to that for me. I would also say that, and I haven't done as good a job at this as I'd like to have over the years, but you get the most out of something that you really get involved in. And people are going to get more out of their FICPA relationship or membership if they get involved in some way in their local chapter and get to know the people better there, participate in the activities, or on a statewide basis. I've learned that from the beginning. It's not as good just to be a member and pay your dues as it is to be someone who's involved, because it's being involved that enriches that experience and makes it good for everybody else.
Is there something that the FICPA might be able to do to even enhance that relationship for people in industry a little bit more? Are there topics or in CPE, are there people that could be exposed speakers that might enhance the experience a little bit more especially for the industry members?
Mike, it's a tough question. I think that there's such a diverse array of needs in business professionals across industry, and some of them are very focused on financial planning, some for businesses, some for people. Others are very involved in financial reporting, others are involved in financial strategies, and it's hard to really say what it is that everyone is looking for. But I find that everybody's surprised that I have kept my CPA certificate current for all these years, even though I haven't been involved in financial accounting and reporting for many years. I'm not involved in the industry from a standpoint of being a CPA. But I find that the requirement to keep current keeps me focused on what's going on in the industry as I pour through the lists of courses and things that are available. And that to me always leads to finding something that can be helpful. So I don't know quite how to answer your question directly, but I know from my own part that when I spend the time to flip through the CPA Today magazine, to flip through the FICP course listings and CPE offerings, that I always am able to find something that's relevant to me. Look, if I can find something like that, I think everybody can. So, you know, I would just encourage anybody who's watching this to kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the FICPA, because there is something in there for you. You may not think it if you don't dig in, but once you dig in, I know you'll find it there.
Steve, is there a skill or knowledge set that you would like to add to your repertoire that would make you a better CEO?
It's been a lifelong challenge for me, Mike, but that is, and I think it may be for others, but it's getting better at managing my time, prioritizing my efforts, and not getting distracted from the things that are important. You know, it's kind of an overused term in the business that you got to focus. But I find that I'm most uncomfortable when I get to the end of the week and I realize that I got pulled this way and that way and this other way, and that I didn't get done the things that I wanted to get done at the beginning of the week. And it's happened all throughout my career. So, you know, setting priorities that stick, making those phone calls that you don't want to make because you have some anxiety about it, or talking to that person about something that you need them to do for you. Some of those, you know, basic lessons in time management are things that I'll probably be on a lifelong quest to perfect. True?
Great. Absolutely.
True.
Absolutely. Steve, what's your biggest pet peeve?
Writing skills. I am discouraged quite often throughout the course of a year with the written communications that I receive. I think that somewhere in the educational process, we've de-emphasized the importance of conveying messages in writing and conveying them in a succinct and clear way. And not that I'm an expert at it, but I always find myself thinking, gosh, this is very difficult to read. Gosh, this is not a well-structured sentence. Gosh, this could be so much easier to understand if it was written differently. So I guess the lesson for young people might be to spend as much time as you can learning to convey your ideas and your messages in writing. And it may be that as we get into, you know, some of these new forms of the communication and messaging and emails, that there will be even less emphasis in the future than there has been in the last few years. But I continue to believe that conveying your thoughts in a clear, concise way in writing is a skill that is very valuable in business and in life.
Steve, what's your greatest joy?
Simple, simple, simple. My greatest joy is my family. Still got young kids in the house. My daughter's 14, Leanna, and Rogers is 11. And though we get tired and worn out from driving them from here to there and trying to correct them and make them clean up their rooms and all the things that kids do, at the end of the day, they're my greatest joy.
Steve, tell me something that a lot of people don't know about you.
I am an avid collector of and listener of music. And I've got a broad range of tastes, from alternative music like Radiohead to Miles Davis to Willie Nelson. And I've got thousands of CDs. I've finally gotten to the point where I've stopped buying CDs nor downloading music off the web. But it's a real passion of mine, and I bet you not a day goes by that I don't spend at least 45 minutes listening to music. You know, certainly it's easy to do when you're traveling to and from work to, you know, listen to the music on the radio or on your iPod or whatever. But a lot of times I'll run the dogs in the morning, and I use my iPod when I'm doing that. So I love music. I love discovering new music, and it's, like I say, across all genres.
Steve, I want to thank you for participating in this interview related and telling your story to potential people going into industry and in our profession. I really appreciate your time, and I think your message is going to be well received by many generations to come. Thanks.
My pleasure, Mike.